Here's some breaking news. It's about an hour and a half before the trade deadline. Ross Atkins has traded away Trevor Richards to the Minnesota Twins in exchange for a prospect. We're going to break down the trade, who the Jays got back, and what that can mean going forward for the hour left of this deadline. So stay tuned for all that and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? Nick Gosse, your host of Jays Digest, and Peter will be back with us hopefully later tonight. He's working right now, but there's a lot going on right now in baseball. Tons of players are getting traded. Trevor Richards just got traded. Trevor Rogers is getting traded, and Trevor Richards is no longer a Toronto Blue Jay. And the unfortunate part about this is that Trevor Richards really was elite for the Toronto Blue Jays the first half of this season. He was really one of the better players the Jays had. But unfortunately, he started to tail off towards his last few starts, and ultimately that impacted his value a little bit to the point where now his value was not very high, and they did get a prospect for him, and this has been an absolute seller's market. But the prospect they got back is a little bit of a flyer. He's a single-A shortstop, and we're going to dive right into it and all that because there's a lot to discuss regarding Harry Ford, who was the prospect. Not Harry Ford, sorry. Jay Harry. Harry Ford's a different prospect, but Jay Harry, the prospect they got back in exchange for Trevor Richards. You can see here the Twins are acquiring Trevor Richards from the Blue Jays in exchange for Jay Harry. And we'll dive into who Jay Harry is and I think everything about that. But first, I want to just kind of discuss Trevor Richards here. He's been pivotal ever since they got him from the Rowdy Tellez trade. He's been pivotal to this team in the bullpen. We've had times where he was starting last season. We had times this season where he was really holding down a bullpen that has been riddled with injuries, from Jordan Romano to Jimmy Garcia, all those guys before Jimmy Garcia obviously got dealt a couple days ago. Trevor Richards really held it down, and he had pretty high value there for a little bit as an elite changeup guy. But the problem with Trevor Richards is ultimately he started to fall off a little bit and really inflated his ERA into the high fours, which hindered his value significantly, because if you rewind a month or two ago, his ERA was in the high twos. It was very good. It was a sub-3 ERA. He was looking like someone who could be a very valuable piece for a contending team at the deadline, but ultimately it didn't work out that way. And especially given how much of a seller's market this is, if Trevor Richards would have been able to continue to pitch elitely like he was earlier on in the year, he could have got an absolute haul back, especially what we saw for some of the other relievers. We saw the Orioles just made a crazy trade, giving up Kyle Stowers for a reliever, or for a starting pitcher, sorry. Like, all these guys in the market right now is so crazy and so much better than we thought it would be for sellers. I can see why Ross Atkins traded Trevor Richards for this player. And if you're unfamiliar with Jay Harry, he's a bit of a flyer. So this season, he's only 21 years old. He's super young. He's struggling in A-ball. He's hitting with a 655 OPS. He has 8 home runs and 39 RBIs in 82 games, so flashing a little bit of power. But if you look at some of his other stats there in rookie ball, he honestly had a pretty decent, he's been decent so far. Very young player. You look at like some of his OPSs, you see 1,000, 884, 902, 855. Like, especially last season, bouncing between college and A-ball, he was a very solid hitter. And the question is, once he got promoted to A+ with the Cedar Rapids there, he struggled with the Cedar Rapids. And the problem with that is you don't really know what you're getting with this guy. You're getting a lottery ticket for Trevor Richards, but that's better than them keeping Trevor Richards for no reason. Now, does it mean the Toronto Blue Jays have the worst bullpen in baseball right now? Probably. They definitely do. Unless they keep Chad Green, then maybe, as of the time of recording, Chad Green is still a Blue Jay. And by the time this video goes out in a couple, there'll probably be a couple more trades done for the Toronto Blue Jays. Who knows at this point? But you can see the baseball trade values. Jay Harry's not even in the system, but Trevor Richards imposed a negative $0.2 million valuation, meaning that ultimately he had negative value according to the baseball trade values model. So, I mean, Trevor Richards was never going to get you a crazy prospect at all, but the fact that we got any prospect at all for Trevor Richards at this point is a win, given how he performed this season, just because he really, teams tend to buy high on players that are performing well, specifically bullpen arms. We obviously got a haul for Yusei Kikuchi, who pitched poor as of late, but he has a bigger track record than Trevor Richards. He's a lefty starter, and starters obviously go for more. But Trevor Richards, on the other hand, he struggled a lot this year, and those struggles turned into him kind of losing a lot of his value. Now, you can see this here. So Thomas Hall, Blue Jays traded 2 months of Trevor Richards, who imploded to a 13.06 ERA and 7.51 FIP in 10 innings in July. Traded him for a flyer and infielder Jay Harry. The 22-year-old is Rule 5 eligible after 2026 season, so a couple seasons from now. Has struggled at A+ this season, putting up a 91 WRC+ in 82 games, but hit for contact at single-A last season. And not a huge power guy, but he hits for contact. It's a flyer. You saw the batting average last year was really, really good. This season is struggling, but you're taking a shot on a guy who's only 21 years old. He's a shortstop. Maybe he could be someone who the Jays package in the future for another player if they can go out and really fix Jay Harry, sorry, so many different names, Jay Harry, and then get him out there and maybe get his value up before and have him a part of a bigger trade going forward. But either way, stockpiling prospects at this point, I'm fine with it. Is it a big trade? No, it's not a big trade, but it's something, and you're getting assets back for bullpen arms that are going to leave after this year anyway, that are on expiring contracts. It's not a Jonathan Clase type return that you got for Jimmy Garcia, but you were never going to get that. But if you look at some of the some Twins fans' perspective, they're not happy. They're saying Trevor Richards is terrible. He's a 31-year-old impending free agent with a 4.64 ERA and 4.95 ERA last season and a 4.51 ERA on the career. So you can see how on his career, but you can see how people are like a bit upset about acquiring Trevor Richards. Twins fans aren't really excited about this move. And if you actually watch the games for the Blue Jays, like he was very good for a long time. That ERA is a little bit inflated, and that doesn't mean he's better than what his ERA is saying, but I think there's definitely some swing and miss there. There's definitely some really good stuff that Trevor Richards has. The question is, he hasn't been able to put it together for a full season, and it would have been nice if he put it together for this first half of the year, so they could have gotten a much better haul than just this absolute flyer of a prospect, which is unfortunately exactly what he is. But you can see some people who were in tune with Jay Harry. So Jay Harry is interesting because of the wild success he had at the lower levels. High A's treated him, and he has had struggles. He's had struggles adjusting. Probably an organizational depth guy, but a phenomenal defender, and from all accounts is an absolute warrior. Just loves the game and works his butt off. And that's the big thing here, is he's a grinder. He's a lottery ticket. We've seen that he's had success, really good success earlier on at the A level, and now at the A plus level, you have to go out and prove to the Blue Jays now that he can be a serviceable hitter. He's a great defender. Hitting is what he needs to do. And if he can do this, then who knows? Like at this point, I'm fine stockpiling lottery tickets like this. We're trading off everybody. I really hope they trade Chad Green by the deadline, which is in an hour and 10 minutes as of the time of recording. I'm hoping they get that done. I'm hoping they're able to do maybe even trade IKF. We're seeing it as a crazy seller's market. Orioles traded for a lefty starting pitcher with a 4.5 ERA. They gave up a top 5 prospect. They gave up Colton Cowser, and they gave up one other prospect who was very highly regarded. So it's like they're giving up highly regarded prospects for guys with middling 4 ERAs. Trade Chris Bassett. I'm not going to say trade Kevin Gausman because his value is probably as low as it's going to be, but trade Chris Bassett, trade IKF, trade Chad Green. I don't know why they're going to keep Chad Green. The only reason I can think of is because they want to compete next season with these new younger players. We see Joey Laperfido. He might even be coming to the Blue Jays he's on his way to Baltimore. I don't think he's going to play tonight, but he could play tomorrow's game. He's a guy who is going to be a part of the young core going forward. So there's a lot going on in Jays land, and hopefully the Jays can make a couple more moves here before they wrap up. But I just wanted to get this video out for you guys as fast as possible. We're keeping you up to date with the latest news. So Jays made a trade for Trevor Richards, or traded away Trevor Richards. Got a decent prospect back, and someone that could make an impact going forward, but I think for now he's just going to be a lottery ticket flyer. But who knows? We've seen crazier things, and players like this step up and lock it in at their new teams. But let us know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on this trade? I think it's just an okay trade. Nothing to be too crazy about, but I'm happy with it. See you soon.